y'all. Welcome to another edition of On the Needle. And no, it's not Friday. It's Saturday, of course. Long holiday weekend. This week I had to do some traveling for work, so a little bit off schedule, but still wanted to get in a review for this weekend. So unlike last week where I talked about the Far Side's album that I didn't really know that well, and I really knew one song or really loved one song on that album. Making a drastic turn this week with Alanis Morissette's classic Jagged Little Pill. Now, this came out in 1996, so this album is almost 30 years old. But I was an immediate fan of Alanis Morissette. I'll never forget the day I saw her music video for Ironic. And it was so simple, but it was also so eye-catching, and it really caught my attention. And she had these different versions of herself like all inside the car. It was cool. I thought it was a really cool video. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Jamiroquai's Virtual Insanity. That one has a little bit more, I guess you could say, bells and whistles, but also a very simple video that was really effective and went well with the song. So I love Ironic to this day. That's now, out of all the songs on this album, probably any Alanis Morissette song, that is my favorite by far. The lyricism, I mean, I just love it. I love the soft and hard of it. It's, got this, soft rock voice, and then it kind of goes into this, really punchy, driven rock sound. To be honest, I would love to see Alanis Morissette work with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. Now, y'all hear me out. So if you think about a lot of Janet Jackson songs that she's worked with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis on, which, most of her catalog, as we know, they have that same vein where the songs start off a lot of times very light, airy, and then it goes into this angsty kind of almost like a rock metal kind of feel, even though it's still R&B, of course. So I'm just putting that out there. I would just love to see what they would do working with Alanis Morissette. So this album doesn't really have a lot of frills. I mean, it does have the words to the songs, which is pretty cool, because sometimes Alanis Morissette gets to yelling and I don't know what she's saying. So these words have come in handy. So in this sleeve, you see the thank yous and all that. I mean, very few artists can have a section like this on their album. So y'all read that. Basically, all music composed by Alanis Morissette and Glenn Ballard, and all lyrics by Alanis Morissette. I mean, come on, publishing checks. This album sold, I know it was at least 10 million. It was probably more than that just in the US alone. And it's always so amazing to me when you look back at artists of the mid-90s. The mid-90s was just a time to be alive across the board. You had, artists who were just dominating in every genre. You had Alanis Morissette, who was, dominating and thriving in her genre. You had, REM, you had Nirvana, Shania Twain, Garth Brooks, TLC, Hootie and the Blowfish, Boyz II Men, Bone Thugs and Harmony even caught wind of that with Crossroads. I mean, that song alone was huge. It was doing numbers that people didn't really see for hip hop in that time. So just a great time. So love this album. I don't even really care that nothing else came with it besides the album and, this little black and white sleeve, because music really just speaks for itself. So some of the other ones I really love here. I love You Ought to Know. Alanis Morissette she ushered in the angry girl era, at least as far back as I can remember, people of my generation. When I first heard You Ought to Know, Of course, it wouldn't be as shocking compared to some of the lyrics we hear today. But back then, the stuff she was saying, and I'm gonna go down on you in the theater, and does she do this and do that? I mean, those kind of things, we weren't hearing that in mainstream pop music, because whether we want to admit it or not, Alanis Morissette may be more so rock, or people may try to box her in a certain category. But once you sell a certain amount of records, it's pop. That's just my opinion. I don't care what the genre is. So, she had these huge pop records from this album that were angry. I mean, it sounded like an audible therapy session. I mean, we were just a fly on the wall, hearing everything that was going on. So I love that one. Head Over Feet is one of my favorite songs by her as well. It's one of the most vulnerable tracks by her. I feel like just her pen game is just amazing, because I love how she turned something that could have been so cliche and she made it special to Alanis Morissette. You hear people say head over heels all the time. So the fact that she even flipped that to say head over feet, and the way she was expressing her love for how amazing this guy was dope to me. Hand in My Pocket, love that one. I know I'm kind of like naming the singles, but I mean, hey, all of these songs are really great. This is kind of a no skip to me. I think there's maybe one or two tracks that I don't really like too much. But I love You Learn. That's another one that's hot. I mean, this album had like 6 singles, and we're talking about an album that had about 12 tracks. So you got about half of these albums or half of these singles rather, or tracks that are just tearing up the charts. So I guess my dog thinks so too. So so I just love this album. It's one of my prized possessions, and I feel like when you see people's influence carried out in the future, that's how you know you've done something well and you really made your mark. So when we flip it, how I was talking about the genres, when you look at a group like Jagged Edge, who had the song Where the Party At, and that whole album, Jagged Little Thrill, of course they got that from Alanis Morissette, because this album is called Jagged Little Pill. And I thought that was kind of cool how they did that. But I wonder how many of their core fans even realized it. But I would imagine a lot of people did, because like I said, Alanis Morissette, even though I guess she would be classified as more of a rock or pop artist, some of those people were really into R&B too. So even when you think about people like current day, Billie Eilish, I see a little bit of Alanis Morissette in her, and just a lot of artists today, like in their styling, the way they do things. I just feel like it takes pages from her book. So curious to know what you all think about this album, Jagged Little Pill. I wonder if she's going to be doing anything special coming up on the 30 years. I mean, it's a couple of years away, but this is a monumental album for her. I mean, this is her career-defining album. I don't think she would disagree with that either. So it'll be interesting to see if she's going to do maybe like a new packaging, or maybe like a special type of tour or something like that in celebration of this. Other artists have done similar things when they come up on those milestone anniversaries. So curious to see if she'll do the same. So let me know what y'all think. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy these videos each week. Hopefully you do. And I will see you all next week. Peace.